we can't control what a government's going to do. We can't control if the weather's going to be hot or cold. We can't control if it's windy or not. But there's certain variables we can control. And if we spend all of our time stressing over the variables we can't control, then pretty soon we're not paying attention to what we can control. And then those things we can control get away from us, and then things fall apart.
Welcome to the Shifan Show. This episode is brought to you by the Prosperum publishing system. For thought leaders and content creators looking to build lasting value, this publishing system transforms your expertise into evergreen digital products and assets. With business systems that work independently from social platforms and algorithm changes, this performance-based model is all about turning valuable content into sustainable enterprise value without relying on social media platforms. Details in the show notes below. But let's dive into today's episode. Today, I'm very excited to have Jason McKenzie, who is an author, dynamic speaker, and one of 17 siblings. Wow. He's also the founder of Voice Web, the Grisora business movement, and the host of the Small Business Big Visibility podcast. He's known for his high energy, story-driven approach that makes business grow simple, actionable, and exciting. Jason inspires entrepreneurs to build businesses that they love, not ones that trap themselves. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be awesome.
I'm very excited. But first, before we kick off, man, definitely want to hear a bit more of your background, how you start building everything and to where you're at today, because in prior to hitting record, I like how you say you want to help businesses, especially the smaller ones, figure out how to, streamline their time, not get stuck on the hamster wheel, which they built for themselves. But before that, you mind just sharing a little bit about your 17 siblings background? Because that's very intriguing. That's insane.
Absolutely. Yeah. So growing up, my parents had 8 kids. And so I'm one of 8. I'm the third oldest. And my parents just kept feeling like, hey, the family doesn't feel complete. It doesn't feel complete. It doesn't feel complete. And they started exploring, what does that mean? How do we follow these feelings that we have? And they ended up adopting. And so I've got a couple of siblings from Guatemala.
Wow.
I've got a few siblings from Ethiopia. And then I have a few more siblings from China. So very diverse family. And we get together and just have the greatest times. And it's really fun because, like I say, I'm the third oldest. And my youngest sibling is a late teenager. And so there's this large diversity of age as well as life experiences coming together. And the way my parents raised us, just like there was always enough love and always enough space for someone else. And so just really unique in this world, I think.
Yeah, I love that, man. Especially for those who maybe orphans or whatever, but it's very cool how your family had their heart for that as well. But how was it like? I imagine being also the one of the oldest in your family. I'm guessing you could automatically put the responsibility of looking after them. Because I'm assuming your mom couldn't handle all 17 in one shot, eh?
Yeah. So it's been a long spread for having all 17 because they weren't all in the house at the same time. So there's some of that aspect to it, but that is totally true. There was this expectation that each of the kids are going to have responsibilities. We're going to step up. The older kids are helping the younger kids. And it really developed a stronger bond between the siblings. So a couple of my siblings that I don't know why or how, but I just gravitated towards them right out of the gate and was always helping them. And now we've got this super strong, tight relationship because when they were little kids, I'm the brother they'd turn to. Hey, I need help with this. I need help with this. And so that in and of itself created a really cool, strong bond that's carried time.
Amazing. And also based on experience, you probably also picked up how to manage a team, I'm guessing, from there.
Maybe so. I'll tell you the coolest part, not maybe the coolest, but one of the funnest parts is we have Thanksgiving. And at Thanksgiving, it started out as a holiday where we're just expressing gratitude, but then it evolved into this holiday where people are just getting together and eating turkey and mashed potatoes and all these different delicious foods together. And when my family gets together, we average about 50 plus pies at this event, and they're all homemade pies, and they're not all the same. Insane. So it's crazy.
It's cool, man. I love those big gatherings as well myself. I mean, come from Asian background,
it's always a treat going back to Malaysia, where I'm from originally, based on Australia right now. And just being surrounded by your cousins and your aunties, uncles, and of course their own kids as well. So it's like, wow, I love that kind of thing.
Definitely.
Man, but like now, this whole like podcast is really much more about finding out about founders and business owners who are doing disruptive and counterintuitive things. But one thing I like about when I was doing some research about what you do is that you try to help small business owners almost like think bigger, but also provide the systems in place to help them not necessarily scale. Like not everybody wants to make a 8-figure, 9-figure company, which is a very hard thing to do. But like, what's along your journey in your business and life in general, what got you to focus more on helping businesses putting the systems where they can manage your time better, manage your staff better, but without having to be give up a lot of what they want to do, but still keep their business as authentic as possible? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So early in, so I started programming as pretty young. I was about 11, 12 years old when I started programming on computers. So by the time I get to college, I really understood a lot of computers. And so as I dove into that space, I started in the web design world and web development world. And I was working with e-commerce because back in the day, that's where the real money was. And the companies I'm working with, they just felt soulless. Like we could literally take and boost their revenue 30%, their online sales jump by 30%. They're like, that's amazing. What are you doing next month? I'm like, wait a minute. You don't realize, like, do you know what it took to move you up that much? And
Mm,
I'm looking around, I just realized those kinds of companies aren't where my heart is. And I had all these friends that were entrepreneurs, small business owners, solopreneurs, and over, they're getting trapped in their life and they're getting cheated by companies that are charging 5 times as much as they should for what they're providing and not providing good service or not providing anything and just taking money from these businesses. And I thought those people oftentimes are just barely keeping their nose above the water, and all it takes is one little thing and they're underwater and their business is toast. And I realized there's a lot more to life than just making money. And I wanted to have that impact to truly help people where it would really move the world forward, because these small business owners, at least in America, they make up the backbone of our economy. And when they're doing well, communities are doing better, families are stronger. The dad's not off working, mom's not off working all the time. They have enough time that they can spend time with their kids, take care of the family. And I could strengthen the community by focusing my efforts there.
nice, nice. So after like we saw that happening as well, like you handed resignation in, study your website agency and everything there as well. So when you look at small business from then even today as well, like of course everyone needs more revenue to pay the bills, keep the lights on, of course, go home stress free, ideally, hopefully. But like what do you currently see that a lot of small businesses are making, maybe like a subconscious mistake or something they're not aware of that's causing them to miss out on, I guess, the business they want, the life they want, but also still having more than enough to just rather to just staying head above water.
Yeah, I would say the biggest issue that I've seen, and it's kind of the issue behind the issues. So a lot of small business owners have a ton of issues they're dealing with, but the issue behind the issues is the fact that within our own brains, we build this perception of reality, but we don't actually have a clue what reality is like. We get light that comes into our eyes, and I look around, I'm like, "Oh, the wall looks white." Well, that's because my brain's telling me the wall looks white. I don't really actually know what's going on around me. So people build up these ideas of this is the way business works. This is the way I am. This is the way my customers are. But we don't actually know if that's true or not. And most of the time, when people are stuck, it's because they have these patterns in their brain that the way they think and the way they think makes them act a certain way. And then they get the same results. And
Yeah,
so if
yeah.
we want to break it all down and get people to stop having those problems where they're constantly struggling and not making enough money, they have to start thinking differently about everything in life so that they start speaking differently and acting differently. And then they're going to get the different results.
Right. So is it also like the typical like the product market fit fallacy where it's like, oh, I started a I think the other day I was watching something on YouTube, like I think it's the Apprentice UK.
Okay.
One of the guys, one of the entrepreneurs was talking to one of the apprentices, and she's developing like a candy or a lolly sort of like product, but it looks exactly the same as other brands out there. And she's charging much higher. And she tries to like justify, oh, it's handmade, it was hand packed, put together, there's a bow on top of it. The classic like, I like this, it's my passion, so people should buy it. Is that like the main thing you see so far, or is there something else behind that?
I would say for a small business owner, one of the big things that oftentimes will trip them up is they think that if someone walks through their door, they have to serve that customer. They don't know that they can say no to work. And so for me, at least the local small business owner, that's where they keep getting tripped up because they may be really, really good at doing one thing. And then someone comes over here and dangles a little money in front of their face. And they're like, hey, I need you to do another thing. And they're like, oh, sure, I'll do that. Like I knew a guy that ran an IT company. And then he's within that same company, they weren't separate companies. You could get your IT done and you could get your snow plowed. And I'm like, how does this happen? Like,
Right,
hey,
right.
can you come fix my computers and plow my parking lot at the same time? Like, it just doesn't even make sense. But he was so busy chasing money that he was willing to combine those two things together and try and turn it into one company when there's no logical explanation on this earth why anyone would put those two things together.
Yeah, very interesting. And do you because like from what it sounds like, you also not just help them with their technical side, you also almost like coach them, right? In a sense, like a bit like
Exactly.
but like how, like, so when it comes down to that, we boil it down to it for especially people starting out or like maybe senior, seasoned business owners, like
Mhm.
what do you find is the underlying issue besides just chasing money? There has to be something behind it, like, that's causing them to just run after the next dollar to see. But how do you go deeper? Like, like I think like the 7 layers or whatever down to find, okay, like what's going on here? Why is your business doing two completely different services, IT and snow plowing? And how do you get to the root cause of helping them like shift their thinking from there?
Yeah. So usually when they're trying to chase too many things, they haven't clearly identified what the soul of their company is. And if they haven't identified what the soul of their company is, then whatever looks good in the moment, and we were talking about it earlier, people with squirrel syndrome, they see a shiny object and they're chasing it. But if we can kind of nail down the soul of your company is this. Here's your core values, here's the tone of your company, here's your ideal customer, here's the products and services you're going to offer every day, then a person can go to the market and very loud and proud say this is who we want to serve and how we're going to serve them, and they can start broadcasting that message, which when they do that, they're going to be consistent in the marketplace, which builds trust, but also they can blast that message into the marketplace in a bigger way, because if they're trying to be a generalist that can do snow plowing and IT, it's really hard to share that message. But if they come in and say, we only help businesses with their IT problems if they have between 2 and 7 employees, and we are going to come in and XYZ and get very granular, they can then have enough noise in the market that they can say no to those shiny object jobs because they say it doesn't match our brand and it doesn't match our services and it doesn't
Mm.
match our ideal customer. Now I have a metric where I can say no, which gives me more space to say yes.
Yeah, no, that's very like fundamentally that's like how business should be run as well. Because I remember hearing this a while ago. It's like you don't have business problems. Somebody's struggling, somebody's having issues with the business. You have a business, but you're bringing in your own personal problems into it. It's insane. But when I heard that one as well, I think like I spent last year just kind of reflecting back, like, okay, is there anything like maybe blind spots, that maybe subconsciously or whatever is happening there as well. And funny enough, though, like we spoke about that, the direction and values. Actually, this year, I caught up with a friend of mine from church, and he's also runs his own business. And he asked me, like, after you stepped down from the previous partnership from another business a couple years ago, he said to me, like, do you actually like think about where you're going to next? I'm like, oh yeah, actually, It's a very good question. It sounds so simple, sounds so trivial, but direction is very key. You can fix all the skills and learn new things, but you don't have the direction you're going there. Like you said, you just end up becoming a generalist.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Nice, nice. Now, in terms of that, then next thing, like you install a lot of different systems, you have them on the website, getting marketing. So you kind of do a lot of like almost like a full suite from A to Z, from what I'm understanding. Like now with AI in the mix of 2026 or late 2025 last year, like how you find your clients and maybe people you spoken to, how they're handling the whole AI shift right now as a small business.
That's such a good question. And what I've discovered is many people who aren't overly tech savvy and they're not the early adopter types who are just diving in full force. They're mostly standing on the sidelines, looking around kind of scared, kind of awkward, and they're like, everybody's talking about AI. I don't know how to use it. I don't love it. I'm not sure. And I see that a lot of them have some fear to jump into the market because they're afraid that jumping into AI is going to mess something up. But the ones that I've seen that are successful in implementing AI are the ones that use this rule. And the rule is when AI steps into the business, it needs to create more space for human to human connection, and it needs to improve human to human connection. When people are trying to use AI tools that reduce the human to human connection or make it weaker, that's the times I've seen that it actually causes more harm than good.
Yeah.
So I can tell you one of the examples that jumps right into my brain is this guy had an AI answering service, but the AI answering service, all it was a fancy answering machine. It literally could do nothing. It couldn't tell me anything about the business. It couldn't give me any information that I was looking for. It just, instead of taking 10 seconds to leave a message, it now took 3 minutes to leave a message because the AI was getting in the middle of it. I'm like, could you imagine being a customer calling up and now taking 3 minutes to talk to an AI just to tell it what you need versus before an
Yeah.
answering machine? Like, that's the most backwards thing ever.
Yeah. So true, actually. I think sometimes now AI is that, um, pardon the language, but for another friend of mine, he called it prompt baiting. You know, a lot of business owners or like, he works more with people on online space. They get too caught up with like, oh, I want to create the next AI agent for my business. But rather than focusing on the actual stuff that moves the business forward, they like spend too much time prompting Claude, ChatGPT to find the code, um, find different things, try to create more images, and they miss the whole point there. Like I remember like even a while ago, I was like working with a client in 2024. He wanted like more chatbots. And then I asked him like, what's the reason for you want more chatbots? Like, oh, because that's what everybody's doing. Should I do that? Like, but is it going to add more? Is it going to add more? Like I said, like create more friction, or it's going to make it easier for people to actually get to you faster and get what they want? Not because it sounds fancy. I mean,
Right.
he was a local tradie here in Perth, but like, you know, an AI powered local trading business doesn't really ring a bell. People just wants their backyard fixed up. That's it. They don't really care about the AI powered side of things.
Exactly. Completely agree. Yeah, I think that also with AI jumping into things so much, there's a certain degree where people are saying, I want real. I want humans. Like if you go on social media, it seems like every other post has been written by AI and
Mm,
clearly so. And people are starting to detect that. And I think that when it's used the wrong way like that, it's going to be more of a deterrent than actually help people. But when it's done the right way, you may not even realize that the AI is doing a bunch of the work in the background.
yeah, and that's another thing you got to figure out. Like now AI is getting, like you said, the patterns coming up there. I think when with Claude, a lot of people can recognize if you don't, it's a wonderful tool for getting ideas. You need to get more content out there. But if you just use it generically, like just say, hey, rather than giving it the right context for AI, it was like, say, oh, write me a post on LinkedIn or Facebook about my IT company. And the Claude does the bullet points by the arrows. And for me, that's just a clear giveaway that it's from Claude right away. Like you didn't really properly like edited it. You just kind of copy and paste it right off the bat.
So
So yeah, right. It's missing the authenticity. Like even I tried the other day on LinkedIn, like I posted um, one thing with AI, but really prompted well. it got a lot of people viewing the post, but then I wrote the next one myself, kind of similar, and then she got more engagement in that sense. So it's kind of weird if you look at feel that energy, you know what I mean? So
100%. And that's the other thing that I love to encourage people to do is in business, like there's no one company that can handle all the customers from both just the customer, like the sheer volume of customers, but also the way people want to do business. Like the way I do business isn't going to be a match for everybody. And so rather than following the trends that everyone else is setting, oftentimes the best thing we can do when we're jumping into a market is we can draw a line in the sand and say, this is the way we do business here, whatever that is. And so if everyone's moving to AI, you could be the exact opposite. And I know eventually every business needs to incorporate AI because it is so efficient at certain things. So I'm not advocating anyone do this particular example, but you could say you're always going to work with a human here. And there would be a whole segment of customers, it doesn't matter what market you're in, that's going to gravitate towards you because of that promise that you're always going to work with a human. And just that idea of what is it that the customers demand or the grumblings of the customers, that if I give them what they're looking for rather than what all the other companies are doing, can I stand out in the field in a way that no one else is?
yeah. I totally get that. And it's very true. Like even right now, like there's been still a phase right now where AI can do most of the copywriting for businesses. But now there's like, I'm seeing a trend, a lot of Facebook groups I'm part of where a lot of people actually starting to still use AI for sure, but they're also using a lot of hand, like writing themselves again. And it's a totally different thing because like you said, if everybody's like zigging one side, stand out and do make it authentically the exact the other way as well. So I wholly agree with you for that one there. I do have another question for businesses. So like for these guys, business, do you work with any particular small business? You kind of work with do you work with a particular niche or do you work with a particular like avatar or anything? Or you just kind of like whoever comes to your door, you kind of like evaluate them first and then you work with them. How do you process or who do you work with specifically?
Yeah, so it depends which company we're talking about, but like my web design agency, Boise Web, we focus in on a very specific persona of who we're looking to work with. And it's more of the mindset of the business owner and where they're at on the business journey that we make the perfect fit. So if they're in a mindset where they want a really professional looking online presence, but they also don't want to go to that full marketing agency that's going to charge them $5,000 just to find out what their persona is, and then another $10,000 to build a website that matches their persona. If that's not what they're looking for and they're like, hey, can I just spend a reasonable amount of money? That's where we sit. So oftentimes our customers can go out and hire a freelancer for about the same price as us, but they get a whole team of professionals at that same price. And that's really where we've positioned is those business owners are looking for something very specifically, and we're sitting right in that market. And so we're just to the side of people that are the do-it-yourselfers, and we're on the other side of the marketing agencies that charge outrageous to do nothing.
Yeah, that's a very big one. But then how about the next one? I'm pronouncing it. I don't
The
pronounce it.
Grisora. Yeah, so for Grisora,
Razora.
yeah, with Grisora, the we exist to help people when they hit one point in their business journey. And not every business owner is going to hit that point. Some never get up to it, some just sail right through it. But that point in the journey is best described as if someone is feeling stuck, feeling trapped, feeling like they're in a cage, if the business is stealing all their time and not giving them the money they need to survive, or not survive but thrive, and they're like, what am I doing wrong? We're there to come alongside them and put them through the system that helps move them from that feeling of stuck, trapped, can I ever get out of this, to holy cow, this business is now the machine I was dreaming of that's pushing me along and supporting me in my life and vision instead of sucking the life out of me.
Okay, that's cool. It reminds me of like that book, The E Myth Revisited, I think, or something
Mm.
like that, by the guy. But you waiting for the clients you work with for the Gerzora side of things, like what typically, I mean, obviously maybe it's like the owner or the founder is the bottleneck of everything. But like, it's also like a nice side because I used to do a lot of consulting for this before, is that a lot of them really want to they think the first default thing is that I must grow to 7 figures or have multiple 6 figures. Then I can feel free to then hire somebody. But like, let's go deeper with this one. Like, what's usually maybe the top 2, top 3 problems that when you work with these kind of clients, they need to fix to then build the machine they want so they can step away from it?
Absolutely. Yeah. To answer those questions, but before I do that, specifically when you said I need to make 7 figures or whatever, I was just talking to a buddy. His friend is got up to where he's doing, I think it's 10 million. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not free yet. I think if I hit 20 million, I'll be free." And I'm like, "Well, like that is totally the wrong mindset." And so that actually ties right back in. The very first thing that we need to do with a business owner is we need to define what is it you actually want out of your life and out of your business. Because if you don't know where the goalposts are and you're trying to kick a field goal, it's going to be really hard to know if you actually kicked that field goal or if you totally missed it. And so we identify that with them. And then from there, what we do is we say, okay, if you're trying to achieve, and I'll just make something up. Like I was talking to a guy just recently and he said, I want enough money coming in from the business that I can go fishing when I want to. That's his idea of success. Now that he has that, okay, what do we need to scale back from? Well, he needs to make sure operations are taken care of. He needs to make sure that his business has the right funnel system so that the potential customers are getting funneled in. And then he needs someone that can just do the miscellaneous office work. He was actually really close to what he wanted, and he only needs to make a few adjustments to get there. And so for first thing is they have to change that mindset like you're talking of, oh, if I just hit 7 figures or maybe high 6 figures, then I'll be free. And we have to really get granular. Then we start building that plan with them of what is it that actually means to go from where you're at to where you need to be. And there's a whole framework we could walk through, but usually it's that mindset shift that gives them the most freedom in that path.
Okay. And with a mindset shift, like, like for example, like here in Australia, like depending on the industry, of course, there's a lot of different ones. Like I was talking to a buddy of mine who runs his own tailoring business, but he's the brand. So it's like there's some days he cannot take leave. Well, on the other hand, you got like another client of mine who ran his own concreting company. It's like I can't find the right people. So like we come to those bottlenecks and everything there as well. Like and for some of these business owners, it feels like, oh, I tried that before. Like how do you help them overcome that? That's a big
Yeah.
question.
In that particular case, what you just described is the business owner hasn't ever come to recognize that the business and them are two separate entities. And I think that potentially could be the case for both. I know the first one for sure, that's what it is, because they're saying they're the brand when they're not. What they do and how they do things is the brand. So they present themselves a certain way. They do work a certain way. They interact with people a certain way. All of those are characteristics of the brand. But the brand, the company never goes and sits on the couch and watches TV. So there's a part of the business owner that is not that company. And the more they can start to separate it and write down exactly what that brand is, that allows them to actually start bringing in other people that can represent the brand effectively. But if the business owner doesn't know what those characteristics are, doesn't know what those traits are, doesn't know what those values are, they can try and hire and they'll be like, well, man, I thought Bob was going to be perfect. He was just like me. He loves football. We love to work hard. And that's not at all the right things. You have to know if that person can represent the brand, not be a good fit because they're like the owner.
Mm, yeah, it's very interesting there. Has there ever been a time maybe like you speaking to a person or business owner or a client where it's like, I think you've taken the title of small business owner too literally. Like you can't just hire like one. I've seen this before because I used to work in a couple of these growing up. It's like they think, okay, I hired a salesperson. Now he or she can manage my team, my admin, my emails, and everything there as well. It's almost like they want to hire like one person to do 6 roles when they should be hiring more people instead. Like, have you ever come across like those kind of clients where you think like, I think you're still thinking too small? Well,
Oh man, I
yeah.
used to be that same guy where I told myself, and this is what's so funny is looking back, I was all the things that I'm now helping people get over because I was looking around and I'm like, I can't hire anybody. Nobody can do what I do. But I was looking for another me so that I could literally move myself out of the business, put one person in there that acted just like me and have them do everything. And I was like, oh, that would be perfect. I just need to find that one guy. That never works. There's not two of me. But so
Yeah.
many owners try and do that. And just like you're saying, they'll be like, hey, you want to come work for me? Sure, I'll come work for you. Okay, I'm gonna have you do this. And as soon as they get in the company, they're like, you're doing great at that. Now I'm gonna add this, 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 this. And pretty soon the other person's like, oh, this job's terrible. And they bounce. And the business owner then is like, yep, see, I can't hire anybody. I'm just stuck.
Yeah. I know I heard from somewhere another guy might be having a hum in the pot soon as well. But he said like he's talking to one of his like clients. He runs his own companies as well. It's his like framework that also helps them out. And this friend of his kept coming and said, try this guy COO that can handle all this. And he said, I don't think you need a COO. I think you need 6 different positions, like 5 or 6 different positions, a creative strategist, a operational manager, so forth, so forth. And the guy goes, it's going to cost a lot kind of thing. And guy goes, well, if you hire an expensive CEO, but he or she burns out, you're going to lose more in that sense there as well. So do you kind of like also sit down with your clients and help them say, okay, yes, it's going to cost more to maybe hire a better admin person. But you also help them to break down, okay, what's going to look like potential for your future and everything? Or just kind of like how do you help them overcome that mental block? Like, oh, if I stick with the 40,000 a year admin role versus the $65,000 a year, you help them kind of see the pros and cons of that as well.
Yeah, in fact, in the book that we're working on right now, should be out soon, hopefully, we actually have a framework of what is it you should replace. Because if someone's stepping in, or not stepping in, but starting up their own business, they're doing all the jobs. They wear all the hats. They wear them all. And oftentimes the misconception is they need to take the most expensive hat off that could damage the company the most if it doesn't go right and put it on someone's head. And then they just pray that the business has enough money to pay the other guy. They hope that the other guy's not going to mess everything up. They hope that everything goes well. And they just kind of step back and they're like, and then when it crashes and burns, they're in a mess. But there's a whole
Yeah.
framework where what is it that has low cost to replace from me as the business owner? So if I'm doing all these jobs, in fact, I just released a free resource where people can do a time audit on themselves and they can see what is it that I'm spending my time on. They could go hire someone for 2 hours a day or an hour a day to do just one of those jobs. And the pay is probably not going to be that much to do that very simple job, but the owner now gets an hour back. So if they've never
Yeah.
hired before, they've never managed before, starting small, inexpensive, and little jobs that aren't going to blow the company up is usually the best place to start, because you're going to make all the mistakes on those first hires. And if it goes terribly wrong, it's only an hour. It's only a little bit of money, only a little expense on the company. We can totally recover from that. Whereas hiring the big guy up front that's going to cost you a fortune, that's where you could totally blow your company up if you hire the wrong person. So we have that framework of working your way up to those big people, and not big people, but big expenses on the hiring side, so that you can, when you're there, your business is already scaled up enough that you can support the cost, but you as the business owner also have scaled up enough that you've got the skills to make it work.
Nice, nice. I like your approach there because I think sometimes you speak to business owners, like especially the smaller ones or maybe the mom and pop shops, like sometimes some other resource out there, that's just a lot, right? And some of these guys, like there's another book of another guy who's still his like software company, like sold for 9 figures. But he's like, I think some parts of the book is like, you can do it too. But I think some people just don't want to do that. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, no, there's no in between or there's no resource more suitable for them there as well. And if there is a resource, sometimes I see online, it's like some of this resource like makes you feel like you just like just, limping along kind of thing, not really fixing the real problem. So it's good to hear you doing that. You have the title for the book already, or you gonna like wait till it's released to share that?
We haven't released the title yet. It's coming soon though.
Fair, 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 fair. And you also mentioned you got a third book coming out as well.
Man, yes. And that's the book I'm most excited about. The third book is all about time and life management for small business owners or people with, I call it the squirrel syndrome. A lot of people, it's like ADD, ADHD, where you're either seeing the shiny object and getting distracted, or you see the squirrel moments and you're jumping all over. and you have trouble zeroing in, this book is going to give all the secrets that allow someone to get in, get the work done, be successful, and feel energized instead of drained when they're doing that kind of stuff.
Nice, nice, nice. I'll definitely make a mention of that in the show notes there as well. But one thing I really wanted to talk about as you're wrapping up is your podcast, the Small Business Big Visibility. So like always love talking to other podcast hosts as well. So can you share a bit more like how it all started? Like like any anything interesting you learned from your guests along the way, etc. Or is it more just you just sharing your ideas there? Love to hear more about the podcast.
For sure. Yeah. So I started the podcast as a way to give back to the community is one benefit. The other benefit is I'm pushing myself into territory I'd never been. And I think that's one of the biggest purposes of life is to become the best version of ourselves. So I've gained a ton from putting a podcast together. The cool thing with the podcast is we drop episodes 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Most
Nice.
of the time, Friday, if I have an interview where I'm interviewing someone, that one will be released on Friday. The rest of the time, they're short little episodes, 5 to 10 minutes long, designed just to get a business owner to start thinking differently. And that's where the title of it comes in, the small business. I'm totally focused in on small business owners, but big visibility is a double play. Most business owners need greater visibility in the marketplace so that the right customers can find them. But also, most business owners have a very narrow view of life and business. And so this podcast is designed to expand their vision, give them bigger visibility into the world so that they can see the world differently. So that's the whole idea is how do I give back to the world? How do I, again, lift those small business owners, give them a better footing so that they can be more successful in business? Now, as far as what I've learned from people, it's been really cool to interview people and see just all the different ways that people make money, the different ways people think, and the different adventures people have had. But the one thing that shines through the most to me, anytime I've interviewed somebody, these people took action when they didn't know the outcome, and they didn't let their fear stop them from
Mm.
taking action, and they didn't let their failures along the way stop them from keep trying and keep moving and keep doing. And eventually they find success.
Nah, that's very cool. That's very cool. Definitely like enjoyed the one, especially the one I think I saw recently is you with the bow and arrow about about aiming properly and everything. I like that one a lot, actually. That's
So
cool.
thank you.
Very nice. I do have a final question though. For now, for 2026, the whole landscape's changing. I know for America, it's definitely very different for Australia. I guess for you personally, like, what do you foresee? Maybe as advice, maybe as a bit of a warning for business owners, in this case, small business owners, that maybe they should be aware of, or like what you're hopeful for 2026 in your space.
You know, it's interesting. I was talking to a guy who's been in the sales world for decades, and he was actually a guest on the podcast, and he says it better than I can. He says the businesses that are successful, and Jeff Bezos said the same thing at a certain point. He said the businesses that are successful focus in on the variables they can control. We can't control what a government's going to do. We can't control if the weather's going to be hot or cold. We can't control if it's windy or not, but there's certain variables we can control. And if we spend all of our time stressing over the variables we can't control, then pretty soon we're not paying attention to what we can control. And then those things we can control get away from us, and then things fall apart. At any given time, 70% of the variables in our business are things we can control. If we do excellent with those and we find our weaknesses with those and make improvements and continually be improving what we can control and just say, you know what, that's one of the things I can't control. I'm going to set it on the shelf and not worry about it. If it affects me, I will then adjust and adapt. But let's zero in on how I can improve the things within that sphere. And that's, I think, the best message I could share with everybody is make sure you're not getting so scared of what's happening or what might happen that you're not focusing on what you could make better.
Yeah, I like that. I think it goes back to what I showed up the prompt baiting guys or people like they scroll too much on TikTok, seeing all these new trends and um, scare tactic stories kind of thing. I think you're true. Just focus what you can control, let go what you can't control. think that's wonderful advice, actually. But do you have any, like, I love that as like the macro level.
Uh-huh.
Do you have anything more like technical or more tactical in that sense?
Absolutely. I would say that if a small business owner is looking at the landscape of 2026, as much as I rag on AI and say that AI is all these negative things, it's also an incredible tool that is going to compress how fast we can do things. And it's going to do that bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I would advise anyone who's holding back from exploring AI to start looking at it just a few minutes a day so that they're up to speed on what's going on. And the reason for that is if you don't do that, it'll seem like everything's the same until you wake up one day and you're like, everything changed and all my customers are gone. The same exact thing happened with the internet. The internet was this thing that just everybody's, oh, what is that weird thing? What's this weird internet? How do you visit these pages? And it just kind of sat on the side and sat on the side and sat on the side. But the people that were building it were busy working and working and working. And all of a sudden, the internet became this integrated thing that touches every aspect of our life. And those people who embraced it were able to adapt and start to thrive in that new environment. And the companies that didn't embrace the internet, they were pretty much just rolled over and tossed into the waste bin of history. And AI is going to do the same thing, but I think it'll do it way faster than the speed it took the internet to do that to companies.
Yeah. No, that's great advice as well. That's great advice. Jason, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I love your stories. Like, I love your energy as well. Definitely the highlight. And you're actually the first guest of this pod in 2026. So it's a good thing to have you on this in the first thing of the year.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be the first guest.
Yeah, awesome. We'll definitely leave you the link in the show notes. And of course, for those who reach out to Jason, definitely reach out to him for anything web development. There has to be a link in there for anything about business processes and optimization. That'll be the next one. Of course, Jason, you got a podcast. I'll also link that in the show notes as well. Happy to help another podcast host. You did it long, I think a lot longer than me. But yeah, I was happy to like refer people to your pod as well. So thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning to The Shifan Show, turning expertise into evergreen digital assets that work independently from social media platforms. You can find out more with the Prosperum publishing system that does this exactly in the details and the show notes below. See you next time.